Hi, Reverend Pam Geagan here from the Center for Spiritual Living, Pleasant Valley in Camarillo, California. And I'm recording from my home at night, April 4th, for Sunday service, April 5th, because I've learned that it takes time to download talks. And so I want it to be up on Facebook by 10 a.m., our normal time on Sunday. And I miss all of you that come to church, all our congregants, but blessings to all of you out there. So my talk is actually the end of my six-letter acronym, Uplift, and it's T, and it's trust. And so my talk is called Trust, Believe, and Change. And my top three assumptions, I don't know about you, but I always say, oh yes, I believe and I trust. And then my top three assumptions when the doorbell rings is: one, it's a murderer; two, it's the police telling me that someone is dead; or that the book I ordered about positive thinking is there. Now, which do you choose? I usually think, what's wrong if my doorbell's ringing? Actually, I don't even have doorbells. So anyway, there is a power for good in the universe, as Ernest Holmes says, that we can use, and it is equally available to all. To most effectively use this power, we develop our faith in it as well as our capacity to live a more authentic and successful life. There is nowhere to begin but right where we are, and it simply calls for our willingness. As we develop a greater understanding of the law and how it works, we become ever more successful. And I do know I've now been in the teachings of science of mind now for over, I would say, at least 35 years, although I do seek out all different religions and learning how they work. So, and I can tell you, the more positive I am, miracles happen when I connect to Source, and then I watch these miracles actually happen in my life. They manifest not only by affirmative prayer, but doing that classic "this or something better is coming my way." So, what is your faith, religion, spirituality doing for you? If you're like most of us, you've probably been striving and reading, exploring many philosophies, from Christianity to Judaism, to reading the Bible, Hinduism and Vedantism, to Sufism, to New Thought, Christian Science, Unitarian, Unity, Mormonism, and you could go on and on and on through Theosophy and so many other spiritual philosophical beliefs. For years, you, like me, probably have tons of notebooks filled with notes to help you awaken and understand what it's all about. What's it all about, Alfie? Most of us have a greater desire to awaken to our higher power, our higher consciousness, to reach those instantaneous life-changing moments when suddenly everything makes sense. Wouldn't that be lovely? So, yet along our eternal spiritual path of becoming enlightened, many times we are still kept wanting and waiting. In those moments, it's time to ask ourselves, what is it in my faith that's not working for me? What's the difference has it made and continues to make in my life, my home, my relationships, my peace of mind? How much peace of mind, courage, love, and compassion, and trust, knowing and understanding does it bring me? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself from time to time to see what path you're on, and actually how your spiritual practices are serving you and serving the world. So this I know for sure: on our eternal path of coming back to Source, a strong belief in something greater than you are, that is honest and best for all, I can guarantee you will bring out the best in you and the best of everything around you. I believe that all of your studying, our studying, that if you're still unhappy, if we're still left wanting, if we're still feeling negative and change for the better is not manifesting in your life and my life, you may find the answer in what I call the law of mental equivalence. And that is where we see how our thinking comes out pictures in our lives. When you put your trust and faith into what you are doing, and then you not judge, but then you look at what you're getting out of it, you see the percentage of trust and faith and connection to Source is the same percentage you're receiving. If you put 5% into living from that that place of higher spiritual consciousness, you'll be demonstrating 5% of what you desire in your life. If you put 100% in trust, belief, and faith into your spiritual practices, thoughts, and actions, you'll have 100% demonstration. I guarantee it. So we are always at choice. We can choose to think good thoughts, have great intentions, trusting and knowing our words have power. Each one of us have a divine, perfect soul or spiritual self, which we never fully see. It is that Christ consciousness, that's what I call it, the indwelling spiritual perfection. It is the namaste that recognizes the divine within ourselves, and it is also the divine within everyone and we meet and everything we see. It is the beginning of relationships built on trust, and in all we meet, it is the law of judge not, lest we be judged. That's a hard one. It is when we begin to recognize that there is an indwelling spiritual presence that lies deep within our souls, and we trust its wisdom. That's when we realize it is the golden key, the presence that recognizes that beyond all appearances, our lives truly are unfolding perfectly in most of all challenging times. It is the power that brings us together, the higher awakening of who we are, and it absolutely shows us the reflection of the divine perfection of God within us and all. The more we establish that personal relationship with God, knock on the door, that's always knocking on the door for us to open it, and then we open that door, we allow the kingdom of heaven in, and that good comes flowing down, and the love comes trickling down, and the more we open up to it, the more full our lives become. In these life-changing times, AC, I say, after the coronavirus, lies an opportunity to build our spiritual muscle and awareness more than ever before. And we can either choose to be in inner conflict or choose to recognize the gift in it that's there for all of us to open up to it and allow its goodness and wisdom to flow in and through and as us. It is a gift knocking on the door of our consciousness, deepening us at our spiritual depth and awakening and awareness, and leading us through that valley of the shadow of death. And I always say, it's the old joke is, you notice the key word here is lead. It's not build a condo in the valley of the shadow of death. It takes you through the dark times. We shine our light and we go to the light, and then the enlightening and the awakening comes. There's a story I'm sure many of us have heard many times, but it's worth repeating. And it's about the old Native American who was teaching his grandson about life. And he says, a fight is going on inside of me, he told his grandson. It is a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil, and he is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, and he is greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. He continued on and he says, the other is good. He is trusting. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside you and inside every other person too. And the grandson thought about it for a moment, and then he asked his grandfather, which wolf will win? And the old Native American replied, the one you feed. And that is truly what is happening to us right now. We are a choice to trust and believe before we see it that the indwelling spirit is guiding and providing us in every step we take. And we can let go of that which no longer serves us and embrace all of the good and joy that life offers. Like the song says, and I'm going to kind of sing this. I don't want to discount myself, but it's, you've got to accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative, latch on to the affirmative, and don't mess with Mr. In Between. You've got to spread joy up to the maximum, bring gloom down to the minimum, have faith in pandemonium, unable to walk upon the scene. There's my singing debut. Hope you enjoyed it. Anyway, Ernest not only says principle is, that's Ernest Holmes, by the way, the founder of Science of Mind. Principle is not bound by precedent. There is no law in the universe that seeks to perpetuate old limitation, but there is a law which responds to our greatest vision at the exact level of that vision. There is nothing in life that says you must keep walking down the same street, but if you do keep walking down the same street, expect to keep arriving at the same place. So, how do we change our thinking? How do we change our choices? Many times we are bound by habits of habitual thinking. There is no greater bondage. It is a waste of our time if we change partners, environments, jobs, and we absolutely start dating the same person and we take that same person with us. What chances our lives have is our thoughts, and what changes our thoughts is the thought of the creative idea, the creative seed that, when planted in that soil of the clay of the subconscious soul that just says yes, and what outpictures in our world is that positive thought. But you are planting also sometimes negative thoughts, saying negative words, and what outpictures when you are only putting 5% into knowing that God is I am, then that's, and the rest is negative, that's what you're going to be sowing the seeds of: negative thoughts, negative experiences. The most practical secret to health, joy, harmony, compassion, prosperity is to make time for God, Source, Jesus, Buddha, the thing itself, whatever you want to call it. It is when we make connection with that divine source, and that becomes the most important part of our day. Divine source, God, is not interested in our history, only in the now, right in this moment. When we trust and are open to listening to that still small voice within, that's when we become healthy, happy, prosperous, more creative, and awaken to the expanding God consciousness within ourselves, and recognize it, that it comes from our words, and also we recognize it in others. We're not happy and healthy because of a healthy body that life grows. Just spontaneous. We're usually healthy, happy, joyous, loving because of our mind. It comes from source into our consciousness, and then we take it into that subconscious that just says yes. And that is where we start. We plant those seeds in that consciousness that absolutely supports us in our highest and best. The greatest fool there is the one that only bothers with the physical world and neglects their own spiritual development. Today, we're being transformed by the renewing of our minds. If we want the whole enchilada, as Wayne Dyer used to say, if we want it all, the riches of the kingdom, the joy, the love, the peace, the prosperity, the great relationships, our great health, thrilling, expansive adventures in our lives, we can have them, but first we must take the time to discover and explore, not exploit, explore our spiritual connection and personal relationships with the divine spiritual guide that lies within each and every one of them. I call that God, because all good flows to us from that divinity that lies within, has always been with us, and always will be with us. But first, we must desire that connection enough to make spirit, divine, God, the burning priority in our lives. I believe that the stories of our lives are a direct reflection of our relationship with God. There is nothing in the universe we cannot have, be, or do if we use our mental capacity to make our mental capacity ready and make ourselves willing and able to claim our good. And you can never claim too much good for yourself, provided you trust first in first cause, the power of the good that is greater than you are. It is actually our spiritual responsibility to believe, trust, and claim that wonderful harmony, peace, health, joy, and love until they demonstrate out into our experience. Because whatever we do to one, I always say, we do to all in this web of life. When we change, We just don't change ourselves. We lift the consciousness of changing ourselves. And then what happens is heart by heart by heart, we change the world. Quite an arduous responsibility, it sounds like, but we've got our job here on earth. And our job that we came to do is to love, to serve, and remember who we are, the divine expression of spirit divine. So I love each and every one of you. Namaste. Peace be with you. Stay safe and know that God is I am. And I'll see you tomorrow. God bless. You are the beloved in whom God is so well pleased. Mwah!